Illuminate, Navigate, Radiate, a journey of emotional resilience. I'm your host, Brandon. We have Annabelle joining us again this morning, as always on Fridays right now. So, Annabelle, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And of course, I've been excited to have these conversations with you and do this little body talk series and just how that can correlate with our mental health, right? And how we view ourselves and how we feel about ourselves and just a really good conversation to have in life right now. Um, yeah, so last week, we talked about media and social media and kind of the influence of those external factors. And today we're gonna dive in a little bit to how what people say can impact us. How, those either those compliments or those things that people point out negatively or, just their opinion of something about the way we look can either impact us or sit with us for a lot longer than maybe we want it to. Um, and I think that's a big one because we don't always, especially people we're close to, right? We don't always think about like, what we're about to say, or we don't think about it as carefully because we feel a little bit more comfortable or we feel a little bit, more okay pointing something out about somebody. And then depending on their age, depending on their comfort level with themselves, depending on any, insecurities they may have, sometimes those little things can carry a lot of weight for us. Um, so how do you just see that impact of, when people, family, friends, people we respect around us, when they say something to us or point something out about the way we look or about a certain feature that we have, either in a negative or a positive way?
Well, the impact is like massive. It is a big impact when, especially when growing up, when your mom, I know a lot of girls that struggle with they don't have the best relationship with their mom growing up because she would always like comment on their weight and stuff. And fair enough, I didn't grow up around that, but I had moments, and I still do, even at an age of 24. I still get moments where my mom, sometimes comments on something, how I look or how much weight I've gained, or even if I've lost the weight when I don't want to lose the weight. It's it, it it stays in your head, and even if it doesn't come from a bad or negative place, it stays in your head, and then you start overthinking and thinking, oh, what if I need to change this? What if I need to be better? And it's especially when you're younger, it can leave such a big, huge, like, dent in your self-image because you don't even realize if it's coming from a place of care or just a place of, I don't care, or being negative, basically. So the impact is massive.
Yeah, and I
So
think that's a really good example, and probably one a lot of people can relate to because I've definitely heard that one a lot, where especially between that relationship between a mother and daughter, where something might get said about their weight or the way they're looking, like their body type, and I feel like when that stuff starts getting said, especially at a young age, yeah, it's probably it could damage the relationship in the future because when you're saying that or hearing that at such a young age, it really starts to stick with you, right? Then you that's the first thing you're noticing about yourself when you look in the mirror because it's something you're constantly hearing.
mhm.
And that's what makes it like difficult because sometimes it's not coming from a place of like, oh, I'm trying to negatively impact you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is coming from a place of care, but then sometimes it's probably doesn't even need to get said. Like it's probably just somebody in their normal body type or somebody still healthy but maybe they don't look the exact way you think they should or you want them to. So that's where that impact can be really tough. But I do like that you said how it comes from a place of care, because I've definitely experienced that at different points in my life, especially with my body weight being a soccer player. I've had that happen kind of. There's two instances I really remember of growing up and remembering, coaches telling me that either I'm too fat or I'm too big or whatever. And I remember two coaches when I was really young putting it to me like, "Oh, you eat too much McDonald's French fries." you got to stop eating so much. And I remember that when I was like 11, 12. I remember everything about that night. The two coaches that said it to me were both international coaches. One was from Mexico, one from was for Russia. And so I really respected those guys, playing soccer. You think the world knows more about soccer. So it's just something in America where you you respect foreign coaches more. Um, but it really affected the way I saw myself compared to my teammates. And it stuck with me for a really long time, of just not having that confidence, to take my shirt off in front of my team, or just not having that confidence sometimes on the field because I felt like, oh, I'm the fattest one out here. When in reality, I really wasn't that much bigger. I just didn't have, a six pack. Um, and it really just played with my mind. Then I remember in college where I gained like a freshman, 20 or 30 because I was drinking and smoking all the time. And my coach basically just sat me down and he's like, "Hey, for the job I need you to do, and for it to be easier for you to do it, like you need to lose 10 to 15 pounds. And that would really help you out with moving around the field, being able to play longer, being able to feel better after you play." And it really
Mhm.
came from that place of my role, my responsibility of what I was trying to get done. And I really respected that conversation, and the way he had that conversation with me because of the place he came from while he was saying it. It wasn't so much about the way I look, it was just about the role I needed to perform and what might make that a little bit easier.
Yeah, and that's the correct way that, as a coach working with kids or young adults, that's how you should approach these kind of things. Like you you never know how a specific aspect or like a specific body part or body image, how a person thinks of their body image. You never know. So you always have to, I guess, kind of approach it with a little bit of caution, with a little bit of care, and it needs to come from a place of care and love for the person. So how the coach explained to you that, this is for you, for your own benefit and for your own health. This is the correct way, instead of just pointing out to a 12-year-old child like, oh, you eat too much fries. Like, of course that's gonna damage your self-image. Of course that's gonna put this in your head, and you're gonna always focus it when you look in the mirror. You're always gonna be focusing and looking at that one specific thing, especially when it comes from someone that you respect and you look up to. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no, well, and I really agree with that because then it's like, oh, I really respect this person's opinion. If this one person feels that way about me, then that's the one that I'm gonna hold on to a little bit more. That's the opinion or the thought that I'm gonna hold on to a little bit more. And so then it just, I just remember my whole time playing soccer up until maybe the last season I played, of just being super self-conscious about that. I had always proved I was good enough to be out there. I always, played a big role in pretty much any team I was a part of. Um, and yet there was still just, in my mind, like I'm not as good. Only because of the reason that I have a little bit extra on on my stomach. And it just played that much to where I would wear like long sleeve shirts, or undershirts in like 90-degree weather, just because if we had to change our jersey, I wanted to make sure I had a shirt underneath so I didn't have to go shirtless for that 2 seconds to change my jersey. And so it just has that huge, it can have that huge impact us and really kind of affect us as we grow and keep going throughout life, especially, when it comes to like weight. And then you have that, that, that personal relationship or that personal thing said to you mixed in with all the media and social media. So when those things kind of mix together about the way you look, it just really can play an effect on your mind.
And like going back to the coaches and stuff, it you need to approach these things with like a place of health, because I know I've mentioned it a lot of times before, but like your priority should be your health, not how you look, not how much you weigh or anything. And if you see that someone is struggling, and regarding weight gain or even weight loss, extreme weight loss, you need to approach you need to approach it with a place of, like, I want you to be better because I want you to be healthier. Not, oh, I want you to be better because I want you to be skinnier. No, it needs to be coming from a place of health and being able to do the things you want to do, like, for example, what your coach said, how you need to be able to run and for a long time, and be able to catch your breath quickly. Like, these are like the little key points, I guess, when it comes to sports. You can talk like that, but these are like the little things. And I hate when I see people that care about others and then say something along the lines of, oh, you need to lose weight, like you've gained extra pounds around your stomach area, I can see like your love handles. And that's such a negative like tone, even if it might come from a place of, oh, I want you to be okay, I want you to be healthy. But is the way that you say these things, is the way that some mothers say these things, is the way that some best friends say these things. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy, and it damages not only your self-image but your relationship with that person, especially if you care about that person or you look up to that person. It becomes a very like conflicting situation, especially at a younger age, when you don't even realize what exactly is happening and how to like get out of this or what to do next.
It's hard to take it. It's hard, like when you're younger, it's hard to like take that in and then process it. And
Yeah.
that's why, I like that you point out again that it's the way we look and the way we feel is really just more about being healthy, because healthy can look, a lot of different
So,
ways on
yeah.
on a lot of different people. And once we start realizing that, I think that really helps deal with those body image issues, when we can realize, okay, well, I'm healthy, I feel good. Then I can be okay with myself. I can look at myself and be okay with myself. And especially when it comes to that weight thing, because weight for people is so different. And what's a good weight, what's a bad weight. People can look at somebody who's smaller and just assume that they're healthier, just
Yeah.
because maybe they're not as big as somebody, and yet they might have more problems because of that, because they can't gain weight, because they can't put it on. And it's just something that that really helps, like, give a different perspective of that conversation, and then realize what's important is that it's that health aspect. It's feeling good, it's being able to do the things you want to do in life, and be able to live your happy and successful life, as you go through it. Have you had, besides a weight thing, like anything like pointed out to you before that you have felt self-conscious about, that after somebody pointed out you started to think about, or maybe you were already a little insecure, and then somebody else said something, so it kind of piled onto it?
Well, there was one time when I think when I just went through puberty and I started getting like hairs on my body and like body hair. And I was wearing shorts. I remember it was a summer day and we were out with friends. And I think a boy like a year or two, 2 years younger than me pointed like, "Oh, Annabelle, you have hairy legs." And how old was I? I was like, what, 10, 11? I didn't think of these things back then. Not at least not about my body hair. I did not think about that. And when he pointed it out, I just instantly felt so like ashamed, as if that was, that was completely not normal. And what ironically now looking back, it's so funny because he was sitting there with shorts and he had so much more body hair than me on his legs. And he had the audacity to comment on a 10-year-old girl's body, like little four hairs. But yeah, no, that it's funny now, but looking back at it, that was the first time I even noticed these things, and I started shaving every day for my life for the next like couple of years. I started shaving everywhere, just in case, so nobody sees another body hair and comments on it. So that definitely had an impact, and I think it translated the older I got, the more it like translated in a relationship. I started overthinking these things and thinking like, oh, I need to shave every inch of my body if I get into a relationship with another guy. So that's how it like translated. I wasn't shy of like showing like my armpit hair to like girls, but to guys, it just something just was in my head like, oh, you cannot show body hair to guys. from all the way from back when I was like 10 or 11 years old. So yeah, I definitely had a huge impact.
Yeah, but that's a really good example of how it makes us, self-conscious of that, and like you pointed out, it was, mainly in front of guys, or was it you thought about it maybe even more in a relationship type of view. Um, but it's just something so natural, and people have hair on their body. It is what it is. But it's something that, like, because somebody pointed it out, we started thinking about it, like, oh man, maybe this, I do need to try to change this, or or maybe this is unattractive, or maybe people are gonna think I'm weird if, for whatever reason. And that's just a really good example of how it can play a role in how you view yourself in different situations too, right? Like, then you don't want certain people to see it, or you try to hide it, or you do something maybe excessive where you're doing it, you're shaving every single day, and maybe you don't even actually need to on some of those days. um and that's, I think it just shows, like, I'm sure that kid wasn't thinking, like, oh, I'm going to point this out and it's going to affect her for a long time, but it's just something that, it's like one of those throwaway comments that when we point that out about somebody in the way they look, or some feature about them, especially something they can't really change, or do much about, um, then it can just sit there with us, and then we start thinking about it, overthinking about it, and then once we do that at that age for a couple months or a year, then that it's harder to get rid of as we get older, right? Then it's, whether we want to or not, we still notice that the first time we look in the mirror, and then it's like, I did it again. I'm thinking that about a negative way. I'm thinking about myself in a negative way again when I look at myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like with stuff like this, it can always be a new thing. Like it's never ending basically. It's something that you might be thinking about because somebody pointed, and then you see something on social media, and then you start thinking about something else. It's always there's always going to be something that's going to bother you, with that regarding your self-image. And people are always going to comment on something. But again, like, if you have that mentality, because this is what personally helped me. Like, I know in the previous episode I mentioned a little bit about like my binge eating and the fact that I was so self-conscious that I couldn't swim without a t-shirt and shorts on and stuff. And what helps me is, what, like, for 7 years, at least for 7 years of my life, or 8 years, no, actually, wait, no more, 10, at least a solid 10 years of my life, I was thinking that I'm too big, I'm too fat. Like, I've always been quite tall, and so I've always been quite bigger than, I guess, the average girl my age, at least when I was younger, especially. And it was hard to accept, like, just myself in general. So when I start thinking about, you know that this is health, this is for my health, I'm moving my body, not because I need to lose weight or look a certain way, but because I get to, because I can, because I can get up and get from point A to point B without any issues, because I can go to the gym, because I can do all of these things, because I get to, because it helps with my health. It builds muscle, and how many benefits does muscle have, like, in old age and all that stuff. So it's you need to be able to, like, block out the noise, basically. Block out the noise, and also understand that you don't know what people are going through. Like, if you're on the opposite end of that, when you notice someone that you love, is gaining weight or losing an unhealthy amount of weight, you need to understand that people are struggling with their own battles. People have their own issues. So you can't assume that they're going to be fine with my comment, with whatever comment you want to say. So you have to, I don't know, just have, like, just care for other people, basically. Care for the people that you love, and don't know, just don't be an asshole. That's it. Like, no, because I wish I could just go back to that time and tell all the people that have ever commented on my body or anything, just don't be an asshole. Because I can comment about 10 different things that you might be self-conscious about. Everybody struggles with this. Everybody does. So yeah, it's just a matter of knowing where you stand and what is best for you, and also understanding, prioritizing your health.
Yeah. No, I think that's really well said, and I feel like everybody feels like they need to be an asshole in today's world when it comes to that stuff. Like, oh, I see something I don't like about that person, and I don't even know that person, but I'm gonna stop them and I'm gonna tell them, like, hey, this doesn't, your nose looks this way, your eyes look that way, or your hairline looks that way, and people just like feel the need to say that about other people, and it doesn't come from a place of like, oh, I want you to be healthier. It comes from a place of, oh, well, you don't look like what you should because you're this type of person or that type of person. And that's what, I really like how you talked about that reframing of uh, viewing, like, especially like your example of exercise, right? It's, I get to do this. And I think that makes it a lot easier to start doing it and then to maintain it. Whereas if you're like, oh, I gotta go to the gym and I got to work out and I'm tired and I just got done working and then it's really hard to get motivated and up for it, as opposed to if you change your mindset or the way you talk about it and oh, I get to go do this. I'm going to feel really good as I do this or after I do this. And I think that positive and negative talk, especially when it comes to body image, plays such an important role. I remember seeing this video of like they had people describe themselves to a sketch artist,
Mhm.
and then they had another person describe, and they compared the two pictures of their own description and a stranger's description that just met them in that moment. And it was really powerful because their own description was very like negative. Like anytime they described something about themselves, it was like, oh, my chin's too big, or I have crow's feet under my eye, or like when you listen to them describe themselves, it's like negative, and it's like almost a little more depressed sounding when they're talking about themselves. Whereas then when you hear the stranger describe them, they're seeing these beautiful things about them, and they're really positive in talking about them. And I think that shows that self-talk and the way we internalize those, if we don't change it to be positive, it's going to impact us so much more. If we don't start trying to change, like, even if you don't fully believe it in the moment, but if you just start getting rid of some of that negative self-talk, you're just going to feel so much better, because then you're not gonna feel bad on the outside and beat yourself up on the inside. But even if you have stuff going on the outside, you still have that internal belief and that internal self talk to, like, I feel good about myself. I
Yeah.
like myself. I like that I look different than everybody else in the world, because if we all look the same, life would be a little bit boring when
Yeah.
when it comes to that. So I think I really like the reframing idea of the way we talk to ourselves and the way we approach things, because it's always going to be a better outcome when we can reframe that with a positive approach,
Right.
or at least I believe, as opposed to trying to get us to change something by beating ourselves up or shaming ourselves, or that negative punishment type of
Yeah.
approach, like, I have to do this and this is going to suck. Instead of, no, I get to do this. This is going to make me feel better.
Yeah. And like the negative approach might work, but it will only be temporary. It will only be one goal that's going to be temporary, and then you're going to go back to, how you used to be. Whereas if you come from a positive mindset, not only is it actually attainable, but you will be consistent. You will maintain this. If, like, regarding the gym, for example, if it comes from a place of, oh, I want to get healthier, you will be actually maintaining it, because your health is your whole life. Like, when that's why I say, like, when you sign up to the gym, if you actually take it seriously and if you enjoy it, obviously I'm not just the gym, but any sport or any activity, any physical activity to keep you moving, once you start it and you actually enjoy it, and it comes from a place that, oh, I get to do this because I like it, I enjoy it, and it also benefits me health wise, you are more likely to continue doing it for the rest of your life, if so you wish. Whereas if you were like, oh, I need to lose weight, I need to go on a diet, and how many times, how, realistically speaking, how long can a diet last? You know what I mean? It's once you just tweak these little things in your head, you're gonna your world is gonna change. Like exactly the way that my world changed when as soon as I changed my mindset to a negative from a negative perspective to a positive perspective when it comes to my health. And about the people, going back to like effects of the effect of peers and their comments and stuff. Yes, like if you're on the other end, one thing I'm gonna say is be nice. Just literally just be nice and let it come from a place of love and care. But if you're on the other end, then if someone continues like commenting on these things and continues to make fun of you, then that's someone that you don't really want in your life. You know, especially if it's like your friend or a peer or a classmate. Just, you know, you need to learn how to block the noise, because these people, they probably don't even love themselves. So why would you ever get advice from someone that doesn't care about you or doesn't even care about themselves? So
And I think that's a big part. It's projecting that those insecurities
yeah.
onto other people. And maybe that's why in society today, we feel the need to say it so much to other people because we have so many insecurities ourselves, and we're not truly trying to work on those. I'd rather point out your insecurities instead of look at myself, because looking at myself can be harder to do and harder to
It is.
change.
It is.
And so I think that's a really good point. Just with that is, you know, be nice. If you feel the need to point something out about somebody, especially physically, think about why you feel the need to do that before you actually do it, before you open your mouth. Take a second and just think about, why do I feel like I need to say this physically about this person? And I think there'll be a lot of times where then you decide, oh well, I don't like this about myself, or oh, I'm just comparing this to some unrealistic standard that I have set in my mind that this is what the person should look like. Um,
Yeah.
and then if you're on the receiving end of it, I love that. Just definitely remove some of those people if it's constant and it's coming from those negative places. But just continue to work on that self-talk, because then even if somebody says something to you, we don't let it get to us as much when we know and we're a little bit more confident in who we are, and we're a little bit better about, like, being able to turn things into a positive in our mind, as opposed to holding on to the negative things that get said to us. And then, when it comes to all this, I thought that was a great kind of segue into next week with you talking about mindset, and how when you change that and when you approach things differently, it changes a lot of every aspect of your life. It changes the decisions that you make. It changes, your comfort level of going to do new things or talking to new people or trying out new activities. And so when we feel good about that body image or bad about it, it impacts a lot of different types of decisions in our life, which is what we're going to dive into more next week, and how those kind of play a role together. Um, so yeah, I thought you ended it and segued it in a great way there into next week.
Thank you.
I didn't think you meant to do that, did you?
I don't know. I just kind of went on with
Yeah.
whatever I was thinking.
Well, awesome, Annabelle. Thank you again for joining us and having this conversation with us again. I always appreciate your time, and even though we're ocean apart, we're making it work.
No, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your day.